Good meowing guys, gals, MBs, and YouTube catters. I wanted to take the time to discuss White Forest for the upcoming format, post Justice Hunters and on the verge of Doom of Dimensions. We just received a ban list about a week ago from the time of this recording, hitting the top 2 decks of the current format. And while it's a really good format, prior to the ban list with Vanquish Soul K9, Draco Tail, and Yummy kind of playing like a little triangle of balance between the top 3 decks. The ban list hitting Vanquish Soul K9 and Yummy a bit retrospectively will probably have implications to warp this format a little bit more, especially with the release of new support for old archetypes coming out in Doom of Dimensions. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about White Forest is because I took White Forest to my locals this past weekend, and this being the day after the ban list is dropped, with the ban list going into effect this past Monday. I thought it would be a good time to get back into playing the TCG. I know I've been on a little bit of a hiatus of playing physically, but with this new ban list, I believed that we were going to give the new ban list a shot, or like everyone's decks would be updated to test the new ban list. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Everyone kind of wanted one last hurrah with their 3 of Vanquish Soul Rosin, 3 of Crystron Inclusion, and I don't blame them. So the good news is, though, we ended up going undefeated regardless, getting the 4-0 at my locals. Draco Tail, or sorry, our matchups being pure Vanquish Soul, Draco Tail, Vanquish Soul K9, and then finally pure Mitsurugi. So quite a diverse format for this last locals before the ban list. And I want to say White Forest feels really good this format, and going into the next format as well. Now, I know I've seen some YouTube videos going around, people doing their tier lists already for the top tier decks for the upcoming meta of Doom of Dimensions. And some of these people have put either like White Forest at tier 3, or don't bother, or not even on the list whatsoever. And I think that's a huge mistake. And that White Forest, while it's definitely not the #1 deck in the format, obviously, but it is definitely a tier 2 strategy that you have to be ready for, because it is a very good combo deck. And if you don't know how to interrupt this deck, if you don't know how to play against this deck, the boards that it makes are unbreakable. And that's exactly what we did. Exactly what we did on Saturday. I've updated the list a little bit for this upcoming format. The other reason why White Forest is good in this upcoming format, or this current format, is because of the lack of Droll and Lockbird, which completely hoses the deck. The top 2 decks now in the format, both Yummy and Draco Tail, do not care about Droll and Lockbird, so we're going to see probably even less Droll and Lockbird in the main deck, if not even in the side deck for other hand trap options. And the only deck of the top 3 that cared about Droll and Lockbird in the slightest, Vanquish Soul K9, after getting hit, is no longer going to be running the Vanquish Soul package, most likely, unless they like ham-fist another archetype in there to search out the Vanquish Soul package, or kind of bridge the 2 archetypes together. And we'll probably move to more of a lower to the ground mid-range control strategy with just pure K9. So the lack of Droll helps White Forest quite a bit, and the strength of board breakers in this coming format is also very good for White Forest, as White Forest loves having these spells and traps in the deck, loves having these high ratio of spells and traps in our deck to send for our White Forest names. And we get to run a mixture of hand trap interruptions and board breakers for going first and going second. And then you have a couple of like hybrid cards in the format, like Black Goat Laughs, that are good for both going second and first. Have it set going first to be able to call any name, so they can no longer special summon. So for instance, in Yummy, you just call Yummy Snatchy after activating it, and they can't summon Yummy Snatchy for the entire turn. Kind of shuts down their entire turn. For Draco Tail, use call Arthelion. Can't do Arthelion for the entire turn. That interrupts their resource loop. And then if you're going second, you can pitch it with your White Force names, your Diabell Star, etc., your Foolish Burial. Call Yummy Snatchy to break the board. Yes, they get one more activation of Yummy Snatchy, but after that one use of Yummy Snatchy, no matter how many times they summon Yummy Snatchy, they can't use Yummy Snatchy again. So it's very easy to break that board as well. Wanted to discuss this updated list. There was a few card changes from the last time I posted a White Forest list. We're still at 43 cards here. Let me change the camera over real fast. We're still at 43 cards. I definitely would love to go lower than 43 cards. Here, I am a little tall. 1 second. There we go. I definitely want to go lower than 43 cards, but realistically, there's not really anything. Like, you kind of have to be running everything that's in this deck, if not even more copies. And I'm a person that prides or focuses on consistency the most above all things. But let's just get into the list. I won't spend too much time on the normal cards that you see in like every White Forest list. Obviously 3 LZ, 3 Sylvie, things like that. But I will take the time to discuss some other choices that kind of deviate from previous White Forest builds and even listed White Forest builds as well because of this new meta shift. Of course, as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns about the list, any ideas, any thing you want to share about White Forest or what you think about the list, let me know down in the comments below. As always, like, subscribe, hit that bell to receive notifications. YouTube has changed up its algorithm quite a bit, and a lot of people are not seeing the videos anymore. So if you want to stay in touch and make sure you get those notifications, make sure you catch any new updates, any new videos, make sure to hit that notification bell as well. All right, anyways, all the cringe stuff out of the way, let's get into it. Obviously, like I said, 3 LZ. This is your one of your best starters. 3 Sylvie. This is all normal White Forest stuff. Shoutouts to the 2025 tin. We got a little rarity bump Sylvie now. You no longer have to use the really bad OTS supers. And they're all ultras except for this one that I'm still waiting on in the mail for. Your best starters, obviously. LZ is best start into if they're a Dominus Impulse deck. And then a Sylvie is your best starter otherwise to grab us a spell and trap. But the ratio in this deck is 20 monsters, 23 spells and traps. So more often than not, and I had this happen a couple of times while at locals, you'll just open up a hand of just 5 spells and traps. And that is perfectly fine. It's perfectly playable. Our spells and traps get us to all of our combos. Our monsters are kind of secondary here. The rest of the White Forest names, obviously the 1 LZ Azamina, the 1 Esteller of the White Forest, and the 1 Rusia. Shoutouts to the rarity bump on that, so we don't have to use the really bad OTS supers. It is now an ultra rare as well, and it looks very good as a foil. It looks really pretty. Yeah, catch that light. All right, Bestials aren't currently a thing anymore unless it's specifically like in the Malice deck. A lot of people, a lot of Malice decks are using it for combo extenders, so we're not too concerned about having our LZ Azamina Bestialed anyways. Sometimes it does happen, but it's not worth going up an additional card. Now, if Branded sees a lot more play with the increase of Branded Fusion to 2, we might consider playing LZ at a second number. Rusia, why Rusia is in the deck is a lot of the decks now are interacting even on your turn as soon as you commit to your normal summon. So if you go a card like a Stellar and it gets hit by Effect Veiler, Imperm, things like that, but you send a Tails, then you can still search out your Rusia, still extend, and your turn isn't over immediately there. If you were not on Rusia, your only access to a level 4 in that scenario would be Sylvie, but you've already used your normal summon in that case. So it makes it kind of dead there. Also, if your LZ gets interacted with, a lot of people are ashing LZ now as the first card that you start with. You can still normal summon LZ and then special Rusia. And then obviously, of course, you can completely play through your combo without even committing to a normal summon if you have the Rusia by going Rusia or by going LZ, special Rusia, LZ grabbing LZ Asamina, and then going into your 6s and your 8s through that line as well. It also gives us 9 White Force names as well, which is a good ratio of White Force names. I don't think we need multiple Stellars since we don't have it's still not a great normal summon. It is good if we can burn their hand traps on other starters, but more often than not, a Stellar is just here to give us fodder and for a couple of new lines that we can do with Witch of the White Forest. Speaking of Witch of the White Forest, our White Forest spells and traps, obviously 3 Witch of the White Forest. It is a 1-card starter. And now with some extra deck changes, even though we get locked out of our darks, if we have to start Witch, we can still make an Omni Negate on 5th or 6th summon to play against Nibiru, play against other interactions, still be able to set up our boards to play during our opponent's turn now. And then for our next White Forest spell and trap, obviously the 1 Tails and the 1 Simple Spoils of the White Forest. Now, you'll notice something's missing here from my previous lists. There is no Woes of the White Forest. The reason why we're not running Woes is because we want all of our White Forest searches, or search off of Sylvie or search off of Rasilia, to all be extenders. Witch of the White Forest, adding Witch of the White Forest is an extender because it adds us a White Forest monster. Tails is an extender because it adds us a White Forest monster. And Simple Spoils of the White Forest is technically an extender because it can fusion summon our White Forest or Asamina names. And it also lets us special summon cards that are second in our hand, like our Stellar. So we want to only search extenders, and we want to streamline our White Forest searches. By adding Woes, by having Woes in the list, not only does it gum up our searches and makes us have to kind of decide if we want the extra form of interaction or if we want to extend, but Woes is also kind of superfluous now because we get a Synchro Tuner summon off of our Diabell, as well as our Diabell Star Vengeance now already during our opponent's turn. So we don't even really need the Woes for that 3rd summon as well. Bridging into from our White Force into our Simple Spoil stuff, obviously is our 1 Diabell Star, our 3 Wanted, our 1 Deception, and our 1 Morium. And to take the place of that Woes now, we are running 1 copy of Simple Spoils of Betrayal Silvera. So we traded out Woes for Silvera, so we traded trap for trap, so we didn't have to mess up our ratios of spells and traps in the deck for our Diabell Star Vengeance. But also, this deck searches Simple Spoils more often than it searches White Forest cards. Diabell Star sets a Simple Spoils. We have Asamina Murasiliago that searches a Simple Spoils and adds it to hand, or Asamina card adds it to hand. We also have Asamina LZ that searches a Simple Spoils card. So we have more searches for Simple Spoils than we do White Forest. So a lot of the time, if we're starting with Wanted, or starting already with Deception in hand, or Morian in hand, any other Simple Spoils in hand that we don't have to use a search to get to these cards, we end on Silvera set, usually with Diabell Star on the field as part of our end board in a game 1 scenario where we don't know what we're playing against. And Silvera lets us tribute our Diabell Star the Black Witch or our Diabell Star Vengeance, and it is a targeted face-up negate. This also has a graveyard ability as well, is if we send this off a Diabell Star or off of a White Forest card, a White Forest effect, and it sits in the graveyard, if the opponent responds or activates an effect in response to our Diabell Star effects or our Simple Spoils effects, so even like they try and Ash our Deception, or if they try and Effect Veiler Imperm our Diabell Star, we can banish this card and negate that effect as well. Then we can use our Wanted to banish the wanted, shuffle this back, or put this on the bottom of the deck, add this back in our combo. It is a very good card to end on. Also, because this format, when people are guaranteed going second, a lot of people are just running tons of board breakers, running Dark Ruler no more, running Ultimate Slayer, running Book of Eclipse, Lightning Storms. If they're going like Dark Ruler no more on our board, like if we go full combo with White Forest, we're ending on Illa Sylvia, either Saint Azamina or Regina, our 2 Diabell Star monsters, Diabell's the White Witch and Diabell Star Vengeance, and then Diabell and Diabell Star Black Witch. So if they go first action Dark Ruler no more, we can't tribute that Illa Sylvia anymore to negate a card. And it shuts off the rest of our effects. It shuts off all of our interaction with our Diabell Star Vengeance, popping a card, do special summon a tutor synchro. We can't chain anything to the Dark Ruler no more. So you have to have something that is chainable to Dark Ruler no more. And Sinful Spoils Severa fits that perfectly. We're also running an additional card out of the sideboard for guaranteed going first, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. Main deck wise, going first and going second, this is a pretty decent card because if you don't need it, you can kind of just ditch it. You can pitch it and still have it for its activation in the graveyard. We're still running both Silvera and Morian, because Morian is the easiest way to trigger Armoa Regina. This card is just a free interaction and free trigger for Moa to pop to. This also lets us loop our Sinful Spoils as well. Our Sinful Spoils trap, or this also lets us loop our Sinful Spoils traps as well. Because if we end on Diabell Star with Betrayal set, they activate something that we want to negate. We'll activate Betrayal, tribute the Diabell Star. That counts as Diabell Star being sent during our opponent's turn. So on a new chain, Diabell Star comes back, sends a card, and then gets to set this Morian. Wrapping up the Sinful Spoils engine, obviously the one Hollowed Azamina, and we're still on Debtors. Debtors is just too good to cut, especially when we get Dark Locked from the field spell. Having Debtors, being able to switch Debtors, have Debtors set for our opponent's turn to either make a targeted send or even make our Moa Regina or Saint Azamina or Illa Sylvia for an Omni negate during our opponent's turn is very strong. And our last engine, of course, the Diabell's the White Witch, Diabell Star Vengeance, Philia Diabell, and Curse of Diabell. This 4-card engine has become the mainstay of the deck pretty much. This is what makes the deck so good. You want to save this engine, getting to this engine for last. You want to make sure this engine is not interrupted, because this engine bridges you into both your Sinful Spoils and your White Forest lines. For hand traps and non-engine, still on 3 Fuelos, best hand trap currently in the game. 3 Ash Blossom, 4 enemies, Mulcharmies. We are on 2 Perulia main board, just because I want to draw into engine or non-engine as much as humanly possible if going second. These cards might come out for thrusts in the sideboard. I'm still debating on this. It really depends on how the format takes shape. If a lot of decks aren't special summoning from hand, then these cards come out. But what we want to draw into with these 3 Mulcharmies is our 3 board breakers in main, our 3 Forbidden Droplet. I normally don't like Forbidden Droplet in this deck because you want as many cards in your hand as possible starting your turn to send for, like, your spells and traps to send for your White Forest names. But you have to have some kind of board breaker in this format. You especially have to have some kind of board breaker to draw into off of your Mulcharmies, because once your opponent realizes that you're just on Mulcharmies and you don't have anything going through it, they'll just play through it and still set up enough negates to stop your engine. The droplets, I know some lists have run Nibiru over the droplets. I'm not a huge fan of Nibiru because it increases the monster count in this deck, and we don't want to break on monsters and hand traps. If the droplets are dead going first, game 1, then we just pitch them for White Force cards. And finally, the last of the non-engine, our one-ofs, our Foolish Burial Goods, our Triple Tactics Talent, and our Called By. And then our last two traps are two Black Goat Laughs. I alluded to this earlier. Black Goat Laughs extremely strong in this format. One of the best cards in this format. You can even play this card at 3. I've elected to go with 2 and a Foolish Burial Goods. I'd rather have the toolbox, I guess, of Foolish Burial Goods to, if we already have access to the Diabella line, we can dump a Black Goat Laughs for our opponent's turn. If we already have access to both of those, we can dump a Sinful Spoils. Now, the world is your oyster, or even going first game 3 or game 2, when we're guaranteed going first, we can dump something out of our sideboard and add it back with our White Forest combo. So like I said, 43 card main deck. Would go lower if I could, but definitely would not go higher, as I am not a fan of inconsistency. Sideboard is kind of straightforward except for one new card. Of course, we have all of our White Forest names. Poplar, Rasilia, Silvera, and Diabella. This is all pretty standard, pretty straightforward. The new synchro is Herald of the Arclight. I'm going to show some lines. This is going to be a part 2 video, or 2-parter video. In the next video, I'm going to show you the sideboarding patterns for this list and show you a few combo guides of how we get to this Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is here if we have to start the field spell, if we have to start a Witch of the White Forest. We can make Herald under our Dark Lock before our 5th or 6th summon and be able to insulate ourselves against Nibiru or other hand traps or other effects. It also has a fun little floodgate effect on it, where any monster sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard, it is banished instead. So making this messes with Vanquish Soul K9. They can't go Izuna and Lupus, because Lupus would then get banished and won't come back from the graveyard. They only run 1 copy of Lupus as well. This messes with Draco Tail, keeps them from fusion summoning from hand, because they would just get banished as well. And kind of hits Yummy a little bit too. Really just affects Draco Tail and K9 the most. I made this going against both. I made this going both games against Vanquish Soul K9, and this plus another card in my sideboard just absolutely hosed his turn, or my opponent's turn, every time. And they have to try it out, this card, as the first thing. And if you're going like full Azamina combo before you activate Witch of the White Forest and you still are able to make this, you have an Omni Negate protecting the Herald Omni Negate. So it is just extremely strong. It is a very strong card. Very good this format, and glad that it was limited instead of being banned because of the Yummy crimes. Our last synchros are the Chaos Angel, the Jiraishin, and the Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon. Jiraishin we're still testing. Because of the new time rules, Jiraishin is less good because it's no longer a time card for life gain, but it still has a Raigeki effect and a Harpy's Feather Duster effect that can still destroy an opponent if this is what we have to end on. But this might be traded out for a Psychic King Punisher. It really depends on your format. If you're seeing like a lot of Towers decks like Lunalight and things like that, where it's hard to get over these monsters, you could easily make Jiraishin a Psychic King Punisher to get over those towers. For our fusions, we are obviously still on the 1 Chorozo. I love Chorozo so much. I love not bricking my hands. I don't think I could ever cut Chorozo because it just fixes your hands and fixes your lines a lot of the time. And while the deck is already consistent as hell, making sure that it is never inconsistent is my favorite thing to do. For our Azaminas, we're on every single Azamina name. Azamina Murasiliago. Shoutouts to the Prismatic Secret from the 2025 tins. See if I can catch it. The light. There it is. That's pretty. That's gorgeous. Azamina Illa Sylvia, we just picked up as a OTS ulti. Let's see if I can take it out of the sleeve real fast. Ooh. Show it off a little bit better. It is a gorgeous card. Oh yeah, there we go. Ooh. Yeah, it is a gorgeous card art. As OTS, I love how it's like embossed or like raised off of the background art. So pretty. Azamina Soul Aristigian, who did not get a rarity bump, is still just a common. Shout outs to the boy. Moa Regina, that did get a rarity bump up to our secret. And Saint Azamina and SP Little Knight to round us off. I hope you enjoyed this first part of the video. I hope you enjoyed the deck list. Like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down in the comments below. Like the video, share the video, subscribe for more White Force videos or more Yu-Gi-Oh videos as well. This is going to continue into a part 2, where I'm going to discuss the sideboarding patterns and different lines for White Forest as well, to play into and to get into some of these options and play under both our Witch of the White Forest field spell, or what we're looking at as like far as inboards and what we make like blind going game 1, or the different options that we have and different lines that we have for that. So be on the lookout for that video as well. As always, good night.